Hello, this is Ronald with Indicator Vault, and in this video we're going to go over the Logic Trendline. As you can see up here in the left hand corner, I have it on. I've got the Australian dollar to the US dollar 4-hour chart pulled up. And this indicator is fairly straightforward, but I'm going to show you a few ways that I would personally use it. Trend lines are very common way of viewing the market as far as looking for bounces and for continuations in whatever the current trend is. And with this indicator, it is giving you in real time basically the most high probability trend line to be drawn on whatever time frame you have it on. And if I pull up the settings to it, you can alter. It doesn't have a whole lot of adjustments to it, but if you change these, if you'll notice the trend line will change some as far as the angle. And with these, we'll get into these a little bit. It's not just a trend line to trade in whatever downtrend or uptrend it is showing, but with these, the strings, they will give you alerts to if it is broken, that if this angle, if this trend line is still going to be valid for now a reversal and for a trade up. So just in this example, let's say price breaks above this trend line, comes back down, and then continues up. That can also be a way to view these as well. But let me show you just maybe a quick example here with the Australian dollar chart. So on the 4-hour, we have this trend line. We see how it's hit here, come down, not quite gotten into there, but then a strong continuation down. And then we could see, for other confirmations, if it comes back up to this trend line, if it's going to, create another down movement. But we don't necessarily just have to wait on this trend line. I'm going to show you how this will work wonderful, how we could have gotten in this trade here for a continuation down. And so start on the higher time frame. For this example, start on the 4-hour, and it's giving this trend line. So I'm just going to mark it out, because now as we go to the 1-hour, it's going to mark out a new trend that it's currently in. But I want to point out this. So on the higher time frame, we had this 4-hour trend line show up, right? And this was the second touch. So let's say, we didn't get in right as this was forming, right? You're not on your charts at the moment, after this second touch. But one way to view this, after these perfect touches, or after each touch, after the trend line is forming with this indicator, this is going to be your high probability zones to also trade from, your high probability demand and supply zones. So for instance, you could take it here, while over here is not super clean. One, because we have a down candle that touched that started the trend line. However, you could still take into account these ones here. Price breaks below the supply, comes back up into it, and look, never goes above the supply, and then continues down. And so these, again, the one where the touches are happening on a higher time frame, if you go to then a lower time frame, are going to mark out more defined supply and demand zones. But now this one, as we get the perfect touch here, and we have an up candle that touches it. So I would discard this wick since this is manipulation, but it still acts as supply. But just, we can see the sensitivity just on the opening of this candle. Price comes back up into it. No, we don't need it to touch the actual trend line again. Now on the 4 hour, on the higher time frame, we could view that. And then after it touches again, go down to a 1 hour, 15 minute or something, and then get a refined entry. And so that's what we're doing here. The 4 hour formed the trend line, the touch here. So this is now alerting me of how I would view this as a valid supply zone. So I don't necessarily have to see it touch again, but now I'm going to look for entries once it reaches the supply. And of course, there's other confirmations, even here, another break of structure comes back up into this supply. And probably, just eyeballing it, probably a fib level of about 70.5, and then a huge move down. So now we're on the 1 hour. Let's get rid of that trend line. And so the 1 hour is now giving us an uptrend. You can see it has it anchored here. Second touch, third touch is wicked below it. But the logic I just pointed out still stands. Down candle, engulfing candle that now validates this as demand. Continues up, breaks the structure, dips back down, has not broken the demand yet, while also tagging the logic trend line, the uptrend. We can see right now it's continuing up. We'll see what it does. And reasonably, we could expect it to probably touch this 4 hour trend line as well and see what happens with that. But now let's do the same thing here and see what we get. Mark out this 1 hour trend line. Let's see what the 5 minute has for us. And here we are with a live example, real-time example of what I was saying as far as the break and retest. And you can see it's given a mark. Now let me bring up the settings again that you can change whatever this shows up as. Just the defaults are these letters, the B and the S, and this is the colors that it'll show up in. As far as marking a break and retest type of thing, and you can have this alert you as well. It can, an email or something where you can have alerts sent to you that, okay, hey, a trend line has been broken on this time frame, and so you might be seeing a reversal. And so with these confirmations here, again, this is the 4 hour trend line. We could potentially be expecting price to come back up here before it continues its higher time frame trend down. On the 1 hour, we now have this uptrend telling us, that we could see a push higher. And now on the 5 minute, we have this downtrend that has now been broken, and we can see a little bit of retest below it. But what was it doing? Just reaching for this demand here. As we can see, went below it to reach for the demand that caused this break. And now it's so far, at least as of today, right now, it's reacting just fine to potentially continue up to the higher time frame trend line. So this is the logic trend line, very simple way to view trend lines. And what's great is it marks it out for you. You don't have to, find all the perfect touches. And one of my favorite features is that it draws them new and the most recent trend line. And so here on this example, just in today, I've marked out how we could have gotten in this up move just off of the 1 hour, and then refining now to the 5 minute. Again, the 1 hour trend line, this was the one touch that then validated the 1 hour demand. Price has now come into it, and not just that, didn't quite actually get into here, but you could easily have taken a trade off of the trend line with the valid touch here. Shoots up, it's now broken the downtrend line, and then touched the demand here to give us a bias of it continuing up to this higher time frame. So that's just some multi-time frame analysis just with this, logic trend line indicator. That's what I like, that it draws the recent ones, and as soon as you change time frames, it'll give it to you. And so it's super quick. As you've seen, I've just gone from the 4 hour, 1 hour, and then to the 5 minute, marking out some trades and even just some moves today that could have been caught. And so I hope this video was helpful, and until next time, best of luck trading.